Now, there's a reason past Prime Ministers have refused to have long election campaigns, and Scott Morrison is about to find out the hard way. Now, I worked on Bob Hawke's election campaign in 1984. That's 7.5 weeks long, and I've watched even his huge lead nearly vanish as voters got sick of both sides and the Liberal opposition found their feet and enjoyed the extra publicity. Never had so much publicity in their lives. But Morrison has ignored that history, and he called a 6-week campaign, thank God not 7, to give Labor leader Anthony Albanese enough time supposedly to make mistakes, which he has. But it's also given Albanese a lot of time to introduce himself to voters, learn from those mistakes and show that he can stand up to pressure. And I think today he sort of sealed the deal with a week to go with a pitch that many voters, particularly non-Anglo ones, would respond to.
And the fact that I have a non-Anglo-Celtic name, and so does our Senate leader as well, I think sends a message out there, hopefully to multicultural Australia, that you can achieve anything in this country. It's a good thing that we have in Queensland a premier called Palaszczuk, that we had in New South Wales a premier called Barajiklian, that in Victoria we had Steve Bracks of Lebanese descent. There's a fellow called Malinauskas who's just been elected in South Australia. I think it's a very positive thing.
That'll give a lot of people the warm fuzzies. Joining me is Sky News Political Editor Andrew Clennell. Andrew, look, I've got to say there's now the smell of death about the Liberals. I know that many of the audience don't want to hear that, but it's true. How do you find Liberal MPs privately coping with this?
Well, I must say a couple of them are probably like me and you and just want the election to be over and done with, Andrew. That's the first thing. 6 weeks is a long campaign. But generally they're putting up a brave face, it has to be said. And that's the right approach because you're always in with a chance in a 2-horse race. Yeah. Having said that, their language, there are little subtleties in the language which suggests that many of them think they're goners. So things like it's harder than last time is a big one. And also I think generally this notion they're talking more about minority government instead of winning a majority. Now that's a dead giveaway because you always want to give your best possible position. And when you're saying that's 74, 75 seats, well, that means trouble, doesn't it? I mean, what you should be saying is I reckon we can still get to 76, 77. I don't hear a lot of that going on.
Andrew, I might be reading too much into this, but it seems to me that Josh Frydenberg, Treasurer and Deputy Liberal leader, is distancing himself from Morrison, and not just to save his own seat, but obviously it's front of his mind right now. But I don't know, is he also trying to show that he would be a new broom Liberal leader after the Liberals lose, not like that Morrison at all? Here he is today distancing himself from Morrison's support of Liberal candidate Catherine Deves, who's been campaigning, controversially say some, against transgender issues.
I would use different language to what the Prime Minister has used, and I've been pretty outspoken and strong in my criticism of the way Catherine Deves has approached this issue.
I don't know. What did you make of that?
Well, it's interesting. I hadn't noticed that. If I had, I might have reported it, Andrew, this afternoon. But I don't think there's any doubt about it. And I've heard this under the radar that he's not happy with the Catherine Deves thing or a few other things that Morrison has done because he thinks it risks his own seat. So, yeah, I think there is a little bit of division there. Look, I mean, they get on pretty well, Morrison and Frydenberg. Don't get me wrong. They've had a successful partnership. But on this, there are concerns from Frydenberg and some of the moderates or people who run in these so-called moderate seats against the Teals that Scott Morrison hasn't particularly helped them in this campaign. And should Scott Morrison lose and should any of those seats be lost, there will be recriminations after this election night. I'm convinced of that, Andrew.
Oh, and I think people are putting down markers already. I mean, Josh Frydenberg is a very smart cookie. He's always thinking a few steps ahead. But the question is, obviously, Andrew, whether Josh Frydenberg is actually going to survive this election. The climate independents look like possibly beating him in Kooyong. And that would leave only Defence Minister Peter Dutton as the obvious next leader. At this stage, of course, after election, everything shakes up a bit. But Peter Dutton of the right of the party versus Frydenberg of the left. If Frydenberg's not there, this election could actually sort out the Liberals' dilemma after the election, whether to go left or right.
Absolutely. It certainly annoyed the moderates, that's for sure. I think Frydenberg might get there. I think we won't know on the night. I think postals if he gets there. And the other thing I'd leave with you is Dutton would become leader. You're quite right. Should they lose and Josh lose, both of those things would have to happen for that to happen. But I wonder whether Frydenberg would try to re-enter Parliament through another seat. Don't discount that possibility. It would be a big decision for Josh Frydenberg, whether to end his career here and go into corporate life. I almost can't believe we're talking about this. Or re-enter politics.
Yes, but that, of course, would take time. And in the meantime, the Liberals have to choose a leader. So we shall see. We shall see. The debate last night, Andrew, I couldn't believe some of the media reporting of it today. This was much better. It was so much more polite than the Channel 9 debate with all that yelling. There was no interrupting this time. They all had their little set pieces. We learned so much more. To tell the truth, Andrew, it was boring as all hell. For the first time, I actually fell asleep during a debate. I actually fell asleep on the couch watching this thing. And I was thinking, all they had the chance to do was put position points. It was like watching two guys rattling off all their campaign slogans and one-liners and all this kind of stuff. And you didn't get, like you did with the yelling, at least you didn't get information, but you had an insight into the two guys.
It did have the feel of an hour-long press conference about it, didn't it, Andrew? I think I'll leave it at that. That's no fault of Channel 7. I'm sort of glad that Sky News People's Forum did the first debate. It came after Albanese's first week gaff. I think we just, by luck more than anything, timed it right in terms of testing them out against each other. And I think it was the superior debate. Of course, I'm biased, but viewers, every day we see journalist questions to these two guys, right? So we had an hour of pretty much viewers' questions. So it was different. The debate was more like what they've been doing day in, day out, dragging journos around the country for the sake of one press conference a day.
Exactly. This was two simultaneous press conferences, which didn't make it any better. And I think our format, even if some other station takes it over some other I think our format is far superior, really. It livens things up a bit and gets to what people are really thinking about. Andrew Clennell, you've only got one more week, mate. Good luck. Break a leg. See you.
Thanks, Andrew. Looking forward to election night and people watching.